Somewhere in Japan, there's a temple that has been standing for over 1,400 years. No nails, no screws, no glue, just wood, cut, shaped, and fitted together so perfectly that the structure gets stronger every single time an earthquake hits. And the craziest part? The technique used to build that temple is almost completely forgotten today. What if I told you that the reason your projects split, wobble, or fall apart over time has nothing to do with your skill, and everything to do with what nobody ever taught you? Stay with me, because what you're about to see is going to completely change how you think about wood. The joint is called the nuki, and in some forms it's known simply as a drawbore, mortise, and tenon. But the version I'm talking about today goes further than anything most modern woodworkers have ever tried. It was used across ancient Japan, medieval Europe, and even early American barn construction. And then, almost overnight, it disappeared. Not because it stopped working, but because it became easier to just grab a nail gun and move on. Here's how it works, and why it's genuinely one of the most satisfying things you'll ever do at the workbench. You take 2 pieces of wood. You cut a mortise, a rectangular hole, into one piece. You shape a tenon on the end of the other. Then here's where it gets interesting. You drill a hole through the side of the mortise and slightly offset the matching hole through the tenon. Just a fraction, maybe a 1/16 of an inch off center. Then you drive a wooden peg, a pin, through both. That offset forces the tenon to pull deeper into the mortise as the pin goes in. The joint locks itself. It actually tightens over time as the wood moves with humidity and temperature. The more stress you put on it, the tighter it gets. No hardware, no glue. Just physics and geometry doing exactly what they were designed to do. Now, before I keep going, I want to be honest with you about something. One of the biggest reasons woodworkers never try joints like this isn't lack of skill. It's lack of a proper plan. Because the difference between a drawbore joint that locks forever and one that splits your workpiece in half is literally the position of one hole. A 1/16 of an inch in the wrong direction, and you've ruined an hour of work and a beautiful piece of lumber. I've seen it happen, and I've done it myself. If you're someone who's ever felt that frustration, starting a project from a rough diagram and watching it fall apart at the exact moment you thought you were almost done, there's a link in the comments where I put together something that might genuinely help with that. But let's keep going, because the history here is just as fascinating as the technique. In medieval Europe, master craftsmen guarded joints like this the way chefs guard recipes. Apprentices would spend years before they were even allowed to attempt them. The knowledge was passed down in person, hand to hand, chisel to chisel. Then the Industrial Revolution hit. Mass production arrived. Speed became the priority. And the philosophy shifted from build it to last forever to build it fast enough to sell it before it falls apart. That's not an exaggeration. That's basically the origin story of particle board. But here's what I find remarkable. Every time someone rediscovers one of these old joints and actually uses it, the reaction is always the same. They can't believe it works. They tap that wooden peg in, feel the tenon draw tight, give the joint a pull, and there's this moment of genuine disbelief because it feels impossible. Wood holding wood, with nothing else, and it's not going anywhere. The drawbore is just one of them. There's the Japanese Kanawa Tsugi, a splice joint so complex it looks like a puzzle, but when assembled correctly, it resists tension and compression simultaneously. There's the tusk tenon, used in timber framing, which can actually be disassembled and reassembled hundreds of times without losing strength. There are wedged-through tenons used in workbenches and chairs that get tighter the harder you sit on them. These aren't tricks. These are solutions that thousands of craftsmen tested and refined over centuries, and they work better than most of what's sold in a hardware store today. And here's the thing that gets me every time I think about this. These builders didn't have YouTube. They didn't have instant access to plans or measurements or step-by-step breakdowns. They had a master, a workbench, and years of practice. Most of us today have better tools than they ever did. And yet somehow we end up with wobbling chairs and cabinets that sag after 2 years. That's not a talent problem. That's an information problem. So what do you do with this? You start with one joint. Not the most complex one, just one. The drawbore is actually a great starting point because once you feel it lock, you're going to want to use it on everything. Cut the mortise clean, shape the tenon to fit snugly, not tight, snug, offset your hole by no more than a 1/16 on the tenon side, and use a dry, straight-grained hardwood peg slightly tapered at the tip. Oak, ash, hickory. Drive it in slowly, feel the resistance build as the joint pulls together and then just stop. Don't force it, the joint will tell you when it's done. There is something deeply satisfying about finishing a piece and knowing that no metal touched it, that 100 years. From now, if someone takes it apart to look at how it was made, they're going to find nothing but wood, cut with intention, fitted with patience. That's not nostalgia. That's craft. And it's completely within your reach, with a basic set of chisels, a drill, and a plan that actually shows you where every measurement goes. The temples are still standing. The barns are still standing. The only question is whether what you're building right now will be standing in 20 years. I think it will. And now you know why.